Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Couldn't stay away for too long. Apocalypse is still trash. That hasn't changed. Nothing posted by the devs, but it is also the weekend over there. So we'll probably be hopefully hearing something from them on Sunday night, Monday morning type vibes. Hopefully they've been listening to the community and they have some changes lined up for Apocalypse to make him better and to make this update actually worth engaging with. On the other hand, there is other things to talk about, so I do want to get to those, namely the 40% all uniform sale. Now, these do happen every 40 to 45 days in game, but I can't remember a time in between all uniform sales, more so than recently, where I got more questions from people. When's the next uniform sale? When's the next all uniform sale? I want to buy a uniform. And although my advice in the video is don't buy, any uniform, try to wait until the end of November. My advice also is to play the game the way that you want to have fun. And this has been my shift in thinking for a couple of years now, but just to reiterate, have fun with the game. If you're not having fun with the game currently, but there's something you could do to have fun with the game and you can do it, go and do that thing. Even if it's not the most efficient thing, even if I or another content creator or a friend or alliance member is telling you, oh, wait, don't do that right now, do that later, wait, grind more, save up more, hoard more. Sure, if you want to and you want to play super efficiently, that's great. If you don't want to, that's great too, right? The game is not just about being super efficient 24/7. I know I built a lot of my channel on the idea that you should do that, or that's something you can do, and I still believe it's something you can do. But especially when games get older, when they get a little bit more boring, when you get a little older, you don't want the same things anymore, and you don't have the same time as you did before. So that's why my thinking has kind of changed, and I generally, even for myself, I preach this. If you're not having fun now with the game, but there's something you could be doing in the game to have fun, go and do that thing. If you can manage to do it. So yeah, if there is a uniform you really want to buy, go ahead and buy it. Even though, realistically, there's going to be a slightly better discount in a couple of months. Now, the uniform sale being now at the beginning of October is a bit awkward because, like I said, these usually happen around every 40 to 45 days. But in 60 days, right at the end of November, the last Friday of November, which this year falls on the 29th, on the 29th, or probably on the 28th, it's going to start. There's going to be a 50% uniform discount, which is the Black Friday uniform sale. And there's going to be like a bunch of other things. But the main one is a 50% uniform discount. So that's why myself and a lot of other people are probably advising players right now, don't buy uniforms if you can. If you can help it, just skip it. Just wait. Because although it's only an extra 10% discount, it materializes itself. Instead of a uniform costing 1050 crystals, like the average price, it goes down to, I believe, 875. So you end up saving almost 200 crystals per uniform. You end up saving 175. If you were going to buy 5 uniforms, that's an extra uniform for free. That's 875 crystals that you saved by waiting. So just as an example, if there were 5 uniforms that you were about to buy today, and you just wait 2 months, you can buy 6 uniforms, even if you didn't collect a single crystal more. And obviously you will, so you'll probably be able to get 7 or 8. So it actually does end up being a lot when you have multiple uniforms to buy. However, just making a video telling you guys, hey, don't buy uniforms right now, wait until later, is not really that helpful. I recognize that people know when Black Friday is, and I also recognize that for some people the discount is not deep enough, it's not good enough, or they have other things that they want to spend their crystals on later, like bingo, whatever. What I instead want to do as well, like to sort of couple with this idea, is I want to highlight 5-6 uniforms that I think are worth it at any time. And again, it sort of goes hand in hand with what I was saying at the beginning of the video about playing for fun and playing your way. Obviously, this is just my curated list. It's not going to necessarily reflect the way that you play this game or the way that somebody else plays this game. But I think these 6 uniforms are justifiably purchasable now. Meaning that even if you, want to get that extra 10% discount, and you absolutely can, it also might make sense to just get them now. And the reason being that these uniforms are very good, very transformative. They're going to impact your account in a major way, and they're not going to be replaced very soon in the future. And they all have, well, 5 out of 6 have one thing in common that you'll see very soon. But that's basically the goal of this video is, You know, there are some uniforms that the value that they present, that they would give you right now, exceed the value that you would be gaining by waiting 2 months to buy them later. Does that make sense? So again, we're talking about 175 crystals. It's going to be a little bit more than 175 crystals for a lot of these uniforms because they're native tier 2 or native tier 3 uniforms, so they have a higher purchase cost. So you would be saving even more crystals. Again, I recognize that. But even if you're saving, you know, 400, 500 crystals, the value that those uniforms can have for you right now, if you buy them and use them every day for the next 2 months, I think I would argue that they exceed the value in crystals that you save by waiting. And the first one is the most obvious. It's Sentry. If you have a tier 3 Sentry that you're planning to tier 4, or even just a tier 3, like a Sentry that you have tier 3 that you're going to build up to level 80 and work towards tier 4, I think it makes sense now to buy his uniform at 40% off and not necessarily wait until it's 50% off. I know this is particularly, you know, an important question and a frequent question for returning players who are trying to get back into the PvP meta, not necessarily to dominate the PvP meta, but just to get like a foothold. They come back and they have their team from 2021 or 2022, and they're just getting slapped around in PvP with their old Thanos, etc., their old Silver Surfer, and they're like, man, Obsidian King is not cutting it anymore. What's going on? You know, I got whatever build. I got the old 3099 Doom. He's not good, Alex. I need something, right? I need help. Boom, right here. And I recommend Sentry over pretty much anyone else from the PvP meta, including Wolverine, including Adam Warlock, because he's a universal type. And that's really the key thing here that's going to lock in a lot of these uniforms for me. I looked at it and I looked into it, and universals just don't get replaced as often. And I've sort of held this opinion for a long time, but if you look at the list of tier 4s, if you look at the list of characters who have remained strong over a long period of time, two things stand out. One, seasonal uniforms. I know. Two, universals, right? I'm obviously not going to be advocating for seasonal uniforms because they are not affected by the 40%, 50% discount, and they're also seasonals. But the universals thing is something you can really touch on. So the next one is actually Gan Gray. And again, I know it seems kind of dumb because this is a uniform that normally costs 1,500 crystals when it's discounted by 40%, which means that you're going to be saving an additional amount of crystals when you get that at when you get that at a 50% discount, because at a 50% discount, you'd be saving an extra 250 crystals. That's a lot, right? That can be a lot to some people. But again, her value, the value that this represents, especially if you've completely finished the quest and you're sitting on a tier 3 or possibly tier 4 Gan Gray, or you could tier 4 her. She's already tier 3. I think it's fantastic. I think for Jean, you have to have her tier 4 or very, very close to tier 4. With Sentry, it's there's a little bit more wiggle room. You could have him at tier 3 for a while, and I still think he would bring a ton of value. I think for Jean, you kind of need her tier 4 because her tier 4 gives her that accumulation bonus. She actually gets accumulation from her tier 4 buff, and you can spam it every rotation. And it really, obviously it helps her with PvP because it gives her reflect, but it also gives her damage for PvE, which is huge, right? So it really helps ramp her damage for PvE, and that's where the majority of her value is, and that's where she actually is still quite meta. So yeah. The next one I'm going to talk about just briefly, this is a seasonal uniform, but I just want to tell everybody that I think this is still a very good uniform to buy in a couple of weeks, in 2 to 3 weeks when it comes out for the Halloween seasonals, along with Sin, Morgan Le Fay, Black Bolt, and whatever the other 2 new seasonals are for Halloween. This is a fantastic uniform. He's a very, very strong character. He's good at tier 3. He's insanely good at tier 4. He's very, very flexible. He has a PvP artifact to give him immortality. Just a very, very flexible hybrid character. Truly a hybrid character. You know, iframe ignore with penetration, right? 100% penetration. This is back when the devs were actually making characters good. This is last year. This is 2023. They actually knew what they were doing with characters. They were cooking hard, and Ghost Rider is just amazing. So yeah, no doubt there. The next one I want to talk about is actually Beta Ray Bill. I know a lot of these are native tier 2. I promise this is the last one. But yeah, these are native tier 2s, and these are characters who, you know, they cost a lot to invest in. So I'm not saying that, you know, by putting Beta Ray Bill on this list, I'm not saying, hey, go finish the Guardians of the Galaxy Epic Quest if you haven't started, just to build up Beta Ray Bill and buy this uniform. No. And I'm certainly not telling you to buy the uniform ahead of building Beta Ray Bill. I never want players to buy uniforms before they have characters. But if you finish the epic quest and you're just sitting on your naked Beta Ray Bill, he gains so much from the upgrade. He becomes a support character. He changes his elemental typing, but he still has elemental damage, and he becomes a powerhouse in his own. Even if you don't take him to tier 4, he's a strong strong transcended character. He hits hard. He's a good striker, and he again has that buff. He has the leadership for fire damage, which is nice, and then he has that passive buff for all alien allies, which makes him a flexible support. So yeah, I really like Beta Ray Bill. I slept on him for way too long. I think he's actually quite nice, and I think he's a very good like roster booster kind of character for a lot of accounts. The next one I want to talk about here is Hela. She's actually the last universal in my list of 6, and again, I think Hela's just a little bit underrated. Her value absolutely skews more towards PvE than PvP. I would say it's probably like 70-30 for PvE versus PvP. But the thing is, she hits really hard with just one skill. She's a little bit more boring to play than some of these other characters for sure. She can definitely feel underwhelming when you first get her because, again, her 1-5 just doesn't do any damage and you're like, what the hell's going on? But then you pop her tier 3 and you're like, oh, okay, that's what's going on. And she just rips through everything. And it's really fun. And I found that she's also insanely good for Shadowland, so she just tears through basically any Shadowland stage. So anytime you're climbing up and you're trying to hit that plateau, 135, whatever, 235, she'll be able to do that final stage for you if you don't want to invest in Doctor Strange. She has the immortality artifact, so there is some PvP value there. And then, of course, she has the support ability for PvP and a little bit of PvE. So, yeah, I really like Hela. I think her value is nice, even though it's almost a year old now. And I think she'll continue to gain value in the future. And then finally, we come to Hulk. I think Hulk is another one that you could probably justify buying now, even though you're not getting that full 50% discount. I think you have to have him tier 4. I don't think level tier 380 is really justifiable, but some people might disagree with me. But I think at tier 4, Hulk represents a super easy character to play who just hits super hard and is able to do a bunch of different content for you. So that, I think, is really, really nice. He's not a hybrid character, so to speak, like Ghost Rider and others, but you can build him for PvP. So I mostly glaze him as a PvE character right now. I think he's really big on PvE right now, and it makes sense. But if you go and look at the top ladder here for Otherworld Battle, if you don't find Apocalypse right now and Whales testing Apocalypse, you're going to find a lot of people using Hulk. Well, there we go. There's a Hulk in the top 10. There might be another Hulk here, just outside the top 10. So he definitely has value for PvP, despite the fact that he's not, that's not his best game mode anymore. He still does have value. A lot of people, I guess, have replaced him with Apocalypse right now. I don't think Apocalypse is better than Hulk. I just think he's like the flavor of the month right now for players who are trying to justify tier 4ing him and struggling to do so. But yeah, I really like Hulk. I think he's a fantastic character. And again, I think what he represents bringing to your roster, again, if you are able to tier 4 him, or you already have him tier 4 and you have the old Fear Itself uniform, I think this is a huge upgrade, and it's well worth the value that you get now from him versus the 175 crystals that you save by waiting 2 months. But again, that's just my opinion. Hit me up in the comments down below and let me know what you think, if you've bought any uniforms during this sale, or if you're waiting until Black Friday. I hope Black Friday is really good this year. I hope the new game mode in a couple of weeks, is really good. And I'm still obviously holding out for the devs to do something about Apocalypse. Anywho, hit me up in the comments down below. Let me know what you think. Thanks so much for watching the video. Smash the like button if you enjoy the content. Thanks for being here after all these years, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.